Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Brilliantly Resilient Live. We have one of my greatest friends on the entire planet who Mary Fran is trying to steal as her friend. Not nice. We have my buddy, Eric Hartman from, oh my gosh, I have to think about it. I guess we met through our rare disease stuff. I don't even remember when or where. I feel like we have been friends our entire lives. And Eric makes all of, not that the rare disease conferences are boring, they're not, but they're very, you have to kind of really focus and pay attention and learn things and then tell people things. And then we have a lot of fun in the back of the room laughing at stuff. So Eric, thank you so much for joining us from your home in, tell us how to say it.
New Orleans.
There you go.
You can say Nolans, but really,
and he's from Nolans? Oh my gosh, my husband has family down in Nolans. I just got to come and visit.
Well, it's funny. I live in New Orleans, but I live on Orleans Street.
Oh,
No.
New Orleans has all these weird pronunciations. Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So I live on Orleans, but I never say I live in New Orleans. It's New Orleans or Nolans.
Nolans.
Yeah.
Okay, there's our speech lesson for today. Now, we're going to dive into Eric's his background as a professional, but also the background of where he's standing. All of the pictures back there, and for those of you that can't see it, there are paintings that are absolutely extraordinary, and we're going to get into all of that. But Eric, let's talk first about the work that you do now, and then we'll go into how you got there. So tell us what you do now.
Sure. I am the Director of Advocacy for Choroideremia, and since none of us can pronounce that except over years, we call it CHM. And CHM is very similar to retinitis pigmentosa. We lose our vision from the outside in. So, and it's hereditary. It's a negative X-linked gene. My mother was adopted, so we didn't have any history of it in my family until I was 11 years old and went in from bright sunlight carrying a nice project board into a schoolyard and stomped across classmates' projects sitting on the floor like Godzilla, and they're like, don't step there. And I stepped back onto somebody. It was terrible.
Oh.
So, the good nuns said either he's evil or he has something wrong with his eyes, and that's
debatable.
how we found out.
Gotta love the sisters.
Gotta love the sisters. The penguins are everything. Okay.
So that's so you were 11 when you had your first symptom.
Right. And I was actually amazingly correctly diagnosed. One of the biggest problems we have with my eye disease is that it is generally underdiagnosed. It's diagnosed as retinitis pigmentosa. And I literally, because it is an ultra rare disease. Not as rare as your son's LCA, but I'm at the upper end of what would be considered ultra rare. It's one in 6,000 here in the United States. So wow. It's fairly rare. And because of that, I never met anyone with my eye disease. And at age 11, I was told you'll be blind at 20 or 25. And what they may have probably meant was legally blind, but my parents and I didn't understand what that meant. Mm-hmm. So I was pretty much thinking I was just going to go blind early on. And it turns out with choroideremia, I knew I shouldn't have had that oyster po' boy for lunch. Excuse me. But no, it turns out that here in New Orleans, I didn't know anybody. And I was 40 years old before I ever met anyone. And it was because of the dawning of the internet. And we had these internet groups that started up these email servers and finally met people with choroideremia.
Wow.
And that was in the 90s. And by 2000, we decided it was time to start our own foundation. So I'm one of the founding members, and I've served on the board. I was president, executive director, and now I'm a part-time employee of the foundation as director of advocacy. So I reach out to regulators, the rare disease community, and to industry to try and bring together our global CHM family.
Awesome. So I want to also point out, when I'm mentioning that we've, caused a few ruckuses here and there at the rare disease summits, Eric how much vision would you say to give people an idea of what your vision is like in terms of percentage, since you knew what full vision was early on compared to
Right.
now? How can you describe it so I can set the scene for them?
So set the scene. All right. Growing up, all of us have wide vision. Turns out from about out here, really wide, to about here, all of that is night vision. Most of the rods for your night vision are out there. So I was night blind. My vision was like that. And right now I have an iPhone 11 Plus, and I barely see the screen, and I'm almost my cane's length away. I see about my fist.
Okay.
So it's sort of like if you held up a paper towel roll and looked through it, that's what I see.
Okay. So with that in mind, now that paper towel roll is a perfect visual for folks to understand looking through that. These conferences, some of them are absolutely ginormous that we've been a part of at these massive hotels, especially the ones in California for Global Genes that are inside, outside, and you're navigating this whole thing.
Yeah. And in the back of my head, I'm saying, oh, hell, here we go.
Oh, hell. Oh, hell.
No, I think.
But I learned, I was going to say, Mary Friend, what I've learned to do is you get that moment of panic, and then you're like, okay, just ask somebody. And it's amazing how many people will actually help you go out of their way.
Well, we are big proponents of the raise your hand theory, like the raise your hand mantra, like say you need help because there are plenty of other people who have been there. But I'm listening to you describe your vision, and just within sitting right here where I am staring at my computer screen, I'm suddenly aware of how much I can see on either side of me. I
can't see my full computer screen. And for years, if you have low or very little vision, you can't find the cursor. And the easiest way to find it is you sweep up and left, and the cursor gets corralled in the upper left corner, and then you bring it down, you're following it. And then when your vision gets really bad, you're losing it as you're following it. So then I had to get adaptive software that gives me a vertical and horizontal. So I just look at a spot on my computer and move the line up and down and right and left. And, now I've gone to touchscreen, which is a lot easier.
Wait a second. You've corralled yourself to the left. Take a step to the right. You went out of my screen.
Hello.
Wait, take a step the other way.
The other way. Your other right.
Okay, sorry. I'm walking around too much.
There you go. All
right.
Perfect.
Now,
hello.
Now I have a question given I'm looking at your artwork, and this may sound really stupid. It probably does sound stupid, but
you often do that. So that's
I know I do. It's a gift. What can I tell you?
It's not stupid.
It's a gift. So you're saying you see this very narrow field of vision, and I'm looking at your artwork. Does that make you focus on details? Because
it does. It does. And I say it's been a blessing to me because I can see extraordinary detail. I can imagine.
And I'm looking at your artwork. I'm sure that I can't see it super close, but I'm looking, there's got to be like little individual brush strokes everywhere that make your work so finely detailed. And clearly we're not saying that any of the blindness is a blessing or anything stupid like that.
No.
But you've taken it and you've transformed it in some way to this beautiful art.
Well, or actually more of my friends say, I walk miles to make a painting, because what I have to do is when I get up to the easel and I'm an arm's length within a brush stroke of the canvas, I can only see about maybe 4 inches of the canvas. So I literally have to mix the paint, or first I walk back 15 feet to see a 3-foot canvas. And then I walk back up and I mix the color to the spot that I want. I look at it and I'm like, is that it? And I'm like, wait, I lost my spot. So then I walk back with the wet brush 15 feet. Where was I going? Oh, the branch of that tree right there. Okay. And then I walk back up so it's funny, if I'm painting outdoors, people who don't know what's going on are seeing me in front of my little pop-up easel. And then I'm backing up and they're like, do you have bees out there? What are you afraid of? I'm like, no.
Doing the cha-cha.
exactly.
How I would like to see what your Fitbit gives you when you're by the time you're done with a painting. You probably have 10,000 steps in no time at all.
I
You could
broke
do
mine.
a workout, painting with
Exactly.
Eric. Step up, step back.
Exactly. The
So
blind man shuffle.
how have you found, I mean, you know, clearly you said you started meeting people back in the 90s, and I think you referenced that you were around 40 at the time.
Right.
How have you found this building of this organization with the internet and all of that helping you? Like, it just seems to me that it's opened up a world of community that you've taken to a whole other level and a whole other place in terms of your advocacy.
Well, it's been an extraordinary journey. I have been incredibly fortunate to have all the people that have gotten involved, that have found our foundation over the years. And when we started off, we knew nothing. The only thing we did know is that if there was medical research, you need an animal model to do some preclinical testing in. And we found, or we heard about a doctor in England that was funding it. So I think our first grant was $1,200 just to keep the mouse alive for a year. And then we started from there. And now we are the largest funder of choroideremia research in the globe. We have funded over $3.5 million of research. We now have our fourth clinical trial, or a third clinical trial underway, excuse me, not fourth. We had one that is now in phase 3. All the patients are treated, and it's with the first generation of gene therapy, trying to put a corrective gene back in, because we're missing, with that corrected gene, we are missing a transit protein, which is like an Uber. It takes good things in, takes bad things out to keep the retina healthy. And we miss that, and over time, the cells just wear out and die. And then we have another one that's starting, that instead of a really complicated operation, it's going to be an intravitreal injection, which means it's just like they do for medicine for people with macular degeneration. They inject it into the clear middle of the eye, and the treatment could potentially help. Well, it'd be over in about just 2 minutes to do the injection. But long story short, when we started, we thought there was no hope. Right now, there are probably 70 or 80 patients, maybe 100 now, in these trials that have already been treated. And it only stops the disease where it is. But the extraordinary thing is, we started 20 years ago. And if this next generation of gene therapy works, you could treat a child at age 4 or 5, and they would never lose any more vision. That's our goal.
That's
amazing. It's so okay. So with all of that you just described, that you guys have done, and you've been at the helm of that, starting this as a founder, what did you do before all of that? What was your life thing that you were interested in? And I'm going to ask you to step again into the camera.
Oh, sorry.
That's right.
Where am I?
There you go. You're good. To the right. We just
Okay.
need to the right a bit. There you go. There you go.
Okay. Hello. I walk around when I talk, so and my little screen, I'm doing this on my iPhone, so I'm like, where am I on the iPhone? Okay, there we go. Okay, got it. All right. So nothing like a blind guy walking off camera. But so I started out, again, knowing I was going to be blind, and I had really great parents, and I had a very pragmatic parents, but also talented parents. And my dad used to draw a lot. My mom is just an incredible interior designer, an amazing flair. Picture, Jackie Kennedy, that's my mom. I mean, that was her love. And, but they said, well, if you have artistic talent, but you're going blind, so you can't pursue that. It doesn't make sense. So I went in, I got a degree in general studies pre-law, and then decided I didn't want to go to law school. And I spent 16 years working in a savings and loan business, 2 savings and loans, thank you very much. They both got taken over. Talk about the sucker punch. And there I was, I turned, at that point, let's see, that would have been, I guess, I was 34 years old, and I said, I think I'm going to go ahead and do my art. And I was doing paper mache at the time, just to for fun, for fundraisers, for charities. I was doing it to do decorations. And the first thing I ever did were life-size statues of the original characters from Alice in Wonderland. Literally just using wheat paste and chicken wire for this big charity dinner. And literally they had a whole table at this charity event, and it was all the characters, and I made them all. And so then I got better and better. The right behind me, that the marble piece behind me is actually faux marble. And there you are. Okay, see, I'm losing where the camera is. And it's just something that I started doing, and then I ended up doing it full time. I had booths at Jazz Fest. I did statues. I built Mardi Gras floats. I'd fly to Minneapolis every summer, and I built a 35-foot float that held about 40 people, sculptures that were 15, 16 feet tall.
Oh my God. You know? Wait, why don't let's do a float parade at one of the rare disease summits when we're all back in the world again. Wouldn't that be great? Every disease could come in on a float. Actually, let me show you this. This is kind of cool. We could make it killing. Oh, we would get all kinds of media attention.
So yesterday was the anniversary, 15th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina.
Oh, that's right.
Mitchell told me that. Mitchell came down and told me that.
Yeah. My husband
told me. So before Katrina, before I lived on Cape Cod in the late 90s, and that's where I learned to paint. But before that, I was doing paper mache. And this is one of my sculptures.
Oh my gosh.
This one survived Katrina. Somebody gave it back to me to do some repairs because this fin wilted in the floodwaters. It was on a cabinet up high.
That is so New Orleans with the glitter and the
Mardi Gras. I call them my Mardi Gras fish. Yep,
I was just going to say that has Mardi Gras written all over it.
That's right, baby. You got to have the lips.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
So I've got to do repairs on that. So that's kind of weird 30 years later doing repairs on a hurricane that was 15 years ago, but they found me, so I'm going to do that.
It's make you feel really amazing, though, that piece not only stood the test of time, but honestly, it's so cool. I'm loving it just looking at it now, and clearly, whoever had it feels the same way, and wants it restored. I mean, that has to make you feel like the whole decision to pursue your art, that's your sweet spot. That's where you were supposed to be.
Well, absolutely. And I was doing my stuff part-time, and I know that you guys will talk about songs that motivate you. Mm-hmm. And I came up with this design for gold Christmas tree angel toppers. And I started selling them in Washington, D.C. and in L.A. and in Chicago through the Special Arts Foundation for artists with disabilities. And anyway, I was sitting there and I was saying, God, I'm in banking, but I'm spending all my free time doing art. I could just about make a living at this. Should I be doing this? And I had just gotten a brand new CD and I put it in, and it was John Hyatt. And there's a song called Through Your Hands. And I'm sitting there with about a dozen angels in front of me. And one of the signs says, Ed, you're dreaming out on this highway when an angel bends down and wraps you in her warmest arms. And you ask, what am I not doing? And she says, your voice will not command. In time, you will move mountains, and it will come through your hands.
Oh my gosh, that's
I just got chills in my whole entire body.
So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, wow. And they go in through whatever the middle of the song is. John Hyatt plays a great guitar, and it's this riff in the middle. And the angel comes back and says, and still you argue for an option, still you angle for your place, but you wouldn't know a burning bush if it blew up in your face. And I'm sitting there looking at these angels. I'm like, okay, I got the signal.
I get it. I get it.
Thank you very much.
So much of your journey, you've hit on every single thing that we talk about with this whole reset, rise, and reveal. I mean, clearly your sucker punch was losing your vision. The rise, you know, you went into the world and actually probably had a successful career at what you were doing, but just that pull, Kristen and I talk about that tug of that thing that you love. And then you reveal your brilliance in such a beautiful way. And I have to tell you, that story that you just said reminded me, and Kristen, I told this on the show once before. I was earlier on in my whole writing career and everything. I was doing a speaking gig that was miles away. My husband was driving me, and I was doing one of my belly aching and moaning, you know, moments of, oh, this is stupid, and why am I doing this? And nobody's ever going to like my stuff, and I'm terrible, and all that. And we're driving down the Atlantic City Expressway, and I swear on my life, this car pulled in front of us, and the license plate on the car said writer B. Like, be a writer. And I was like, okay. I'll be quiet now. Same thing you just said. Okay, I get it. I'll do this. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'll do it. And
well,
oh my gosh.
you know, it's amazing though, especially when you face your challenges. And I travel a lot alone across the globe, and I'll go to France, and you can arrange it. I could talk on and on about all the things that you can do as someone with a disability to be able to travel. But I literally had to change trains in France, and I had to take a taxi to the next train station, and everything was going well until the taxi driver walks me up to the train station door, opens and says, good luck, gotta go. And I'm like, I thought you were gonna walk me in. And I'm sitting there all panicked. Anyway, to make a long story short, I actually finally found somebody. I just started asking people, please, can you help me? And, you know, some people like, no, you must be begging if you're a blind guy or something. And then finally somebody said, can I help? Yeah. Where do you need to go? I showed him the ticket. This guy says, can you run? I said, yeah. And we literally sprinted through this train station, get to the train. We get on the train, or he brings me to the conductor. The conductor says, both of you on quick. He says, no, I'm just helping him. So she says, I'll help him with the bag. We go halfway up the stairs to the second story of this train, and they make an announcement that the train's leaving. She says, I must go. And she looks up, and there's this woman walking by, and she calls him and says, please help this blind guy to his seat. And she says, sure. And sure enough, she helps me. The other lady steps off the train, the door closes, and we're moving. And I was like, I cannot believe I made it this close. Then I sit down, beautiful young lady in her 20s, and she comes over after we're seated and settled for our 2.5-hour ride to the south of France. And she says, I'm going to get something to eat. Would you like something? And I give her 20 euros. I said, yeah, can I, get a sandwich and a bottle of wine? I'll split a bottle with you. She said, that'd be great. And she came back, sat and talked with me. And I talked about being blind. I talked about my art, but I had just come from doing a lecture for a Dutch group of my patient population. And one of the global leaders of one of the gene therapies was there. And I was telling her about sitting down with this doctor and just talking gene therapy. And it all worked out well. But the amazing part of the end of the story is 1.5 years later, I get an email, and this girl says, hello, I'm Michelle. I'm the gal that helped you to your seat going to Avignon on the train. And she said, I remember you for all that you do bravely traveling on your own. But what really got me was your knowledge of science. And she said, my mother was just diagnosed with a hereditary heart disease. Here's the name. We are in tears. We don't know what to do. And she said, can you help? Well, I had just been to the American Society of Gene and Cell Therapy, still had the app on my phone. And I cut and pasted the name of the disease, found the name of a researcher who did a presentation, went to clinicaltrials.gov, found out he was having a trial starting for that heart problem in San Diego. And within 1.5 hours of her emailing me, I gave her all the background on all the background of the disease and who to talk to.
Wow.
And I just went, that was just meant to be.
Wow.
It's sort of her kindness for me. I end up helping her 1.5 years later.
Wow. And that speaks to so much again about what we talk about. You cannot do anything and be married to an outcome, because when you let things go and you just do them for the right reasons, so many wonderful things can happen, even if it's not what you expected or planned for. And we all end up lifting each other up by giving each other these little kindnesses and never knowing where it's going to land, but just thinking, okay, this is the right thing to do.
Well, that line that says you wouldn't know a burning bush if it blew up in your face. I spent 2 months in Paris or in France painting after Katrina. And I literally traveled all over. Wherever I stayed, I'd trade a painting for 1 week stay. And I painted all over. And I was at Giverny for the day. And there was the 2 little footbridges. And there was this little girl and her grandfather leaning on the railing. And I'm like, get out of the way so I could take the picture and get the railing in the foreground and the railing in the background with all the water lilies.
So sweet, he was going to paint them.
And then I went, oh my God, she's the painting.
And
she was in a little like denim jumper with little white shirt and little frills and a little sun hat and saddle Oxfords with little lace socks. And it was just perfect. I'm like, come on, wake up. It's right there in front of you.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, wow. It's right there in front of you, people. Did you hear that? The blind artist just told you it's right there in front of you. Open your eyes and see.
I also heard another thing in that story that you just told, Eric. And I'm thinking now that when the world reopens and Mary Fran and I actually get to do the world tour, you're coming with us and exchanging paintings.
Oh yeah,
stays and homes. You're going to be our painter and and that's how we're going to.
I am a card-carrying member of the Cabana Boys Association.
The 3 of us are going on a world tour. We're going to share your paintings, and then we're going to share Brilliantly Resilient.
Well, and the amazing thing is that trip. I mean, again, one of these wonderful things. I had been in Paris, and for the last week, I was actually going to go to Ireland to visit some girls that I knew that I had met while I was in Massachusetts back in the 90s. And they were all, yeah, come. They never told me their address. And it got to be like a week away. I'm like, I need someplace to go. So I called the girl that someone else I'd stayed with in Paris. And I was literally sleeping in a basement, but it was 5 blocks from Notre Dame. So primo spot. And I get back. And what happens the next day? The Tour de France is riding into Paris.
Oh my gosh.
So I fight my way, blind guy, walking with my cane, and I'm only seeing this much. So I'm just following
Frogger as you're telling this story.
What's that?
I'm envisioning Frogger, the game Frogger, as you're telling this story.
Yeah, so I get all the way to the end of these barricades, and they stop just before the Champs-Élysées. I'm like, I want to go there. And I look at and with like 100 feet away is another little cross street. And I say to the gendarme, I say, je suis malvoyeur, I can't see well. Please, can you help? He says, what do you want me to do? I said, I need to get to that street over there. In between was all blocked off, VIP area or something. And he said, you must walk that way 2 kilometers back. And I'm like, no. I can't make it with this blind man's game. It's going to take forever. And the lieutenant comes over, finds out what's wrong. He says, well, what would you like us to do? I said, can you just escort me across this secure area to where it's open 1 block over? And he said, yes, we can do that. And they walk me over, and I end up turning, and there's almost no crowd because almost nobody could get to that spot. And there was this big, tall guy, like 6'6", 4 little girls and a mom. And there was like that much space. And I edged my little elbow. I'm a Mardi Gras guy. I can edge my way in there, And he sees the cane. Okay. And then here comes the Tour de France. And I take out my camera and start taking pictures. He's like, wait. What's going on here? And it was this family from Denmark. And I told them what my eye disease was. And I had a card that shows, your vision versus mine. One's all blacked out except for a little spot in the middle. He went, oh, okay. We've been friends for 14 years. And I have gone to stay with them and spent 2 to 3 weeks with them at a time in Denmark, going to Sweden and Germany from there. I mean, I've been blessed with making friends. That's one of God's gifts to me. He says, if you can find them, they might be your friends.
Find them.
Well, I want to sign up for that that honor to be your new friend, and we want to tell people where they can find you, Eric. Where is do you have a website? Where can we reach
I have a website.
Okay.
Yeah. So my last name's Hartman, and my nickname, if you drop the H, it just becomes Artman.
Oh, I love it.
So my website is art-man.com.
Perfect. Perfect.
Man.com. Well, art-man.com.
And
Never
if you want any more
disappoint.
information about our foundation, it's curechm.org.
curechm.org, everybody. Go, you know what? Go check out both of those sites, because the journey and story of resilience, talk about brilliantly resilient with, I mean, the paintings are so brilliant, and the work that you guys have done, it keeps me up at night to compete with CHM. Thank you very much. I'm like, I think I'm all wonderful that I get this thing passed in Congress. And Eric's like, oh, what have you been up to? Here's all the clinical trials I have going on. It's like Mary Fran with TED Talks. I'm like, hey, people wonder why I get up at 5. This is why.
What are you talking about? I was intimidated by you when I met you. I'm like, oh no, she's got all this going on. I'm like,
and
then I learned it was just the Kristen Smedley aura. You get caught in the vortex.
Oh, is that what you call it? I call it other things.
Well, there is that.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap up this show. They can have their own little friendship in some other Zoom room, not in ours. All right, Eric, it is always the greatest time. And I also have to mention this, that Eric is one of my key tribe members that knows right when to call me or text me to pull me off a ledge. He can see it coming, and he knows it takes maybe a Facebook Live, maybe an episode of the show, or maybe just he hasn't seen a post from me in a while, and then he's like, what is going on? Let's get off the ledge, and gets me off every single time. So I appreciate that about you, plus all the fun that we have, and we will have again when we're live in person at these conferences. So thanks so much for being
Hopefully.
on.
Yep. Well, it's
Thank
my
you.
pleasure, ladies, and it's finally great to meet the very famous Mary Fran.
Oh, yes. I'm a legend in my own mind.
Well, good. That makes 3 of us.
All up here.
Kind of infamous. I think the word is infamous. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in to our
All right, thanks, y'all.
fest here. We had a great time. Make sure you go check out that artwork, and go check out the brand new Brilliantly Resilient Masterclass, where you can get the skills of resetting, rising, and revealing your brilliance at brilliantlyresilient.net/masterclass. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.